Today is March 28th, 2024. It is 7:01 p.m. This is the meeting of the Mendon Conservation Commission. We have a quorum. Tim McCarty is online and three of us are in the meeting hall. So we will introduce ourselves. Carl Hummel, Chair.
Leandra Whiting.
Susan Cahalan, co-chair.
Tim McCarty.
Okay. Bob Sweet is in transit and should be joining us shortly. I expect he will be here by the time we start the public hearing at 7:15. So we will be able to do some business in the next couple of minutes. We'll start with agenda item number 2, review correspondence.
Sorry. Yes, there was a letter from Department of Fish and Wildlife Service just notifying us that they're gonna be scheduling CR monitoring for Quissit. I wanted to make sure if we were interested, we were invited to join those visits. But that's it.
That's the other CR that we don't have much interaction with. It's down far south and he does a lot of the work maintaining that. It came in through a CPC grant. Okay, we can skip up to general. About agenda item site monitoring. Want to talk about those briefly?
So I went on a couple of site visits. I went to 73 Blackstone Street, 101 Blackstone Street. Bob and Leah attended. They both have some sedimentation issues. 73 will be sweeping the street, updating the construction entrance, and removing sediment from the wetland downhill. 101 Blackstone Street's going to add additional check dams around some of their pipes and remove sediment that ended up in Springbrook where the stream crossing is. I have photos with those as well if you want to go through them.
Sure.
So this is Blackstone Street. So that's the sediment that ended up in the wetland. So they were out this morning, shoveled it out, and they were updating their construction entrance so that they don't get sediment tracking out into the road.
Or down the hill.
Yeah, and then 101. They've cleared the majority of the lot and started building. Everything upland is fine. And then the stream crossing, they add sediment here, not at the stream crossing, but down along the driveway. They've had quite a bit of washout with the rain. So they also will have to be doing cleanup for these.
Expect to be going out again in a week, 2 weeks.
And I don't think for 101 Blackstone Street, I don't think it's going to be this week or next week because it's all contained in the wattles. They'll just have to do it.
Did they send you new plans or anything yet?
They haven't sent new plans. No, they're going to update. There's additional flagging that's been hung up that we don't have. So there's more to come for Blackstone Street.
Okay. Yeah. Sylvan Springs, there's a new report and
That was an old report.
it's an old, okay. Agenda item 7, CR conservation restriction updates. Any progress on the Maple Farm CR and are providing feedback?
I haven't submitted the feedback to them yet. I didn't know if other commissioners had more on top of yours.
Okay. Other than what we were talking about in our last meeting, looking at the CR, additional feedback? Okay, Peter, have you taken a look at it? I'm sorry, not Peter, Tim.
Bob's there as well.
No, I have not.
Bob, do you have any additional feedback? Are you comfortable with Isabella sending it along?
I'm comfortable with that, yes.
Okay. If you're having time issues getting that back to them, let me know and I'll work with you on that. But that's not held up. We now have some additional commissioners here,
Peter Coffin.
and Bob, can you introduce yourself on the call?
Bob Sweet,
Great, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have a full house tonight. Okay. We have another 5 minutes before we start the public hearing. So with Bob and Peter here, I can get your general reports. Bob, Lake Nipmuc's task force update.
Lake Nipmuc Task Force did not meet last month because we failed to post it in time. So we have plans for this April.
Okay. And Peter, Land Use Committee update.
Land Use Committee, spending some time, the trail, Becky Gallagher they've enhanced some of our trails for horses. And so they're working up on Kelly. And so figuring out where the best route for it is and not interfering with haying of the fields.
So which horse trail is this?
Continuing the trails up at, was it Inman Hill?
Inman Hill.
Kelly Farm?
Yeah.
So expanding, they're going to make some more better all-weather.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, the horse people went in and corduroyed a very muddy part of it. So this is
This is all up and I don't think there's any wetland,
Okay.
I've hiked up there a lot. It's very top of the hill.
top of the hill there.
okay. All right, review and approve minutes. We don't have minutes from the last meeting. Isabella's been burning midnight oil on other projects, but we do have a backlog of minutes from 2023. The printout is not correct. It didn't come out double-sided. However, I looked at them online, the online PDFs. Do people want to wait until they have a chance to look at them now, or should we just go through and approve them?
My sense is go through and approve them.
Yeah.
Then we can,
Glance stuff up.
as we go on, if we see problems, then we can amend it.
Okay, so I'll have I'd like 2 volunteers to do what we did last time. Someone just goes through one at a time and methodically says they want to approve them, and then someone seconds them.
Well, yeah, you have to listen for
That
me.
your-
I'll second you.
Well, I wasn't here for some of these.
It doesn't.
Doesn't matter? Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes for August 10th, 2023.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye. I
Aye.
make a motion. Oh, sorry.
Bob, I.
Okay, passes. Next,
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from August 24th, 2023.
So second.
favor.
Aye.
Okay, I was at,
Bob, I.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next,
okay, I was actually at this meeting. I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the 23rd of September, sorry, the 14th of September in 2023.
Peter seconds it.
favor.
Tim, I.
Bob, I.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 12th, 2023.
You missed 928.
Is it in the right order? Hold on. Nope, the next one I have is that, but I'll do 928 first if you want.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 10-3. I don't think I have it, actually.
928, I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bob, I.
Tim, I.
9:20.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Okay, did we already do 9:14? Yes, because I was there. Okay, I make a motion to accept the minutes for October 12th of 2023.
Need your seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Tim, I.
Bob, I.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Last one.
Okay, make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for October 26th, 2023.
Need your seconds.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Who did that? Was this someone we hired? They went through the tape or something?
This was a senior worker, so it's through the senior program. So big thank you. She did the whole year of 2023. And so she hit almost 100 hours doing all of it.
Not the tapes, right? So if there's.
Yes, everything's on YouTube.
At some point, they will get entered into the town website and put in the town. Okay, well, 3 minutes. And what do you have for conservation agent updates? Is that short or?
No.
Okay. Okay. Tree removal inquiry. That may take a while.
No, it's just one tree.
Okay.
And it's not in the buffer, so it's fine.
Yeah, if you bring up that picture in the GIS locus, we can take a look at agenda item number 6, tree removal inquiry. Remove double white pine tree or 32 Quistit Road.
So here's what is it, Round Brook? And here's the tree they want to remove. So it's on the opposite side of his driveway. And so that brings it outside of the buffer zone. The tree is pretty tall.
Big all white pine? Was it a double white pine?
It's a double white pine, this one on the left, and it towers over the telephone pole here. So I think I would suggest he just snip it here,
Leave a snag.
make it a snag.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd be good with that.
so that
want to take it all the way down?
if he wants to, he can, but it's cheaper to do just half of it.
Cost is, if it has it, and the
Yeah.
guy wants to take it down, he should.
Yeah.
Take it down.
I think, yeah, he can take it down, but the suggestion could be that,
I think it's our place to suggest, that's a
okay,
place that you let him know that he can do it or he can't do it.
Yeah, that would be a means and methods thing. We don't dictate.
Right, but you could make the suggestion, if his only concern is that it's taking down the electrical wires, he could leave leave 12 feet and call it habitat. And then he doesn't have to, that's X amount of wood he doesn't have to take out. But you're right, the homeowner's got the privilege to do what he wants, I would think, outside of buffer, but.
I would normally recommend that, but since this is right next to the driveway, leaving a snag is a falling hazard, and then he'd have to have someone come back and chop it up and call it again. So I would not have the recommendation for this particular one. If we were out in the middle of the woods, then I would be inclined to recommend that. So I'd say waive that particular recommendation for this one.
How about we just give him permission to take the tree down?
Exactly, yes, and we don't say anything further on that. So Isabella, do you know what the paperwork is? Do we need to make a motion on this? Or do you just issue a permit?
that, I have an administrative form for tree removal, so I can just
Okay.
issue that.
Okay.
But just to clarify, do you need permission to take down a tree that's not in the buffer?
No, I don't think it's in the buffer, so I don't think
So-
I have.
No,
I don't
no,
think-
you don't.
It's not.
No, you don't.
I don't have
Good.
to issue anything.
Just check.
Good question.
Is it within the
This is still
200?
America, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we were determining if it was or not, right?
No, it's on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah, we were just determining.
Okay.
They were asking,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, well, then that's what
But
we
if
should
they're
report
asking.
back. that It's not in the buffer zone, so he doesn't need anything from us.
Anything rub out that stump.
Okay, the clocks in town hall look to be a couple minutes fast, but now our internet clock says 7:15. So we will be able to open the public hearing for a notice of intent for 3537 Hastings Street, 1820 Washington Street, the UEP number to be determined. You are in a butter for this?
I am, so I will.
To the audience.
Okay.
On up and introduce yourselves.
I'm not talking tonight.
To set expectations, my understanding from talking with John Nenard is you're going to be making your initial presentation tonight. You have received Isabella's feedback, but will not be addressing them. The commissioners and concerned members of the public will have an opportunity to raise additional issues, and then you would be back in 4 weeks. And the 4-week tempo is because this is how fast you're working with the planning board as well. Okay. So we'll sit back and enjoy all of your documentation.
Presentation. You want to do it over there or do you want it over here? Can the camera see us over there?
If you stand kind of where I'm sitting, they'll see you.
It sort of does. I stood over here for the planning board presentation right now. Pretty cool. Nice and big for everyone to see. Yep. All good?
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, John Nart, and Route 85 Realty, which is known as Hastings Street Plaza LLC in this case, and they're the applicant. I'm also here with our civil, who is Matt Moyen, and he is from Tetra Tech. So we will continue. Yeah.
Not that mouse. Sorry.
Not this mess. Use this one.
Hal, would you mind sliding to your right 6 inches? Thank you.
So this is two properties, 1820 Washington Street, which is over in this vicinity of the property. And then we also have 3537 Hastings Street, which is in this vicinity. 3537 Hastings Street is made up of a building with associated infrastructure and parking. And 37 Hastings Street is a large driving range that's currently, I think, still in operation. 18 and 20 Washington Street is over in this vicinity with a single family house located on it, and then some associated uplands. The only resource area on the site, which was confirmed through a superseding order of resource area delineation on 2/3/2023, is some bordering vegetated wetlands down here in the southwestern portion of the property. We adjusted some flags with DEP during that process, and this is the confirmed line. We also have the 25-foot buffer zone, 50-foot no build buffer zone, and then the 100-foot buffer zone off of that. We also have a jurisdictional FEMA flood zone A, which means most of the area in that is bordering land subject to flooding, and we'll discuss that later on. Good.
Awesome. So just to help orient everyone with the plan here, right-hand side of the page is Route 16, the existing Hood Plaza, Millville Road. Top of the page is Washington Street. Back of the property are the resource areas that Tom just discussed. The proposed project on this parcel is an age-restricted mixed-use development. It's an 18.3 acre assemblage. We made a concerted effort to locate the commercial and residential component primarily in the existing driving range footprint and the already cleared area behind 18 Washington Street. The two existing homes Tom referred to as one at 20 Washington Street, one at 12 Washington Street. The commercial portion of the program is a market and outdoor retail, as well as a separate salon building. In total, there's about 41,000 square feet of commercial development. There are 35 age-restricted single-family homes. The two existing homes will be renovated and restored and maintained in place. There's an existing barn structure at 18 Washington Street that'll be converted into a 2-bedroom unit, a new barn-style structure. The primary portion of the residential development, which are these 32 units, is located to the center of the site. In terms of access and circulation, primary access is going to be from Route 16. We have a proposed signalized intersection at the main site drive, Millville Road and Route 16. There's a secondary access point for trucks just to the east, primarily for trucks and right-in turns only. We are going to maintain two existing curb cuts to the residences off of Washington Street. In terms of utilities, we're going to be bringing natural gas, electric, and telephone in off of Route 16. Given Mendon doesn't currently have public water, for sewer infrastructure. We're gonna have on-site a private water supply, 2 wells towards the rear of the property and the associated zone 1 radius. We've met with Mass DEP. They've performed a site exam. They've approved the well locations and authorized us to proceed with a pumping test to confirm that we can withdraw the required flows to support the development. We've also performed some percolation tests to support the design of the soil absorption system towards the rear of the property around Washington Street. We attempted to minimize the impacts to the woodland area on site, so focus development on the existing cleared area, the driving range behind 18, put the zone 1 and the wells towards the back of the site and maintain as much of that woodland area as we possibly could. And then the soil absorption system almost entirely outside of the resource area. And this will be left basically as a meadow with the soil absorption areas below. In terms of landscaping, the thought I just went through really tied into our landscaping program too. Maintain as much woodland as we can in the rear of the parcel. The commercial portion, it's interior parking lot landscaping with some perimeter screening. In the residential area, it's street side trees around the development, some screening between the commercial and residential, as well as between the residential and Washington Street, and then woodland maximized to the rear. The stormwater design is a closed drainage system that's compliant with the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards. It consists of deep sump catch basins, water quality structures, and an infiltration basin located towards the rear of the parcel. At this point, we just want to keep it high level tonight and open it up to the commission to provide feedback, ask any questions, or provide comments. Yes.
Quick question, you said salon building, that's down in
That's
the
reasons.
So exactly what is a salon building and how is it, why is it called a salon building?
So like a hair and nail salon. And John, you can speak in more detail as to.
Yeah, so
and the-
it's gonna be 5,000 square foot retail building. So originally, that's in Hastings Street Plaza right now, Hood Plaza, I'm sorry, across the street. Was looking for a standalone building, but I think they're gonna expand now inside Hood Plaza. So that'll be just a 5,000 square foot retail.
Okay. If it's nail salon, has that got hazardous chemicals that we need to worry about?
No, so they don't, the salon, the Wink doesn't do nails. They just do hair, makeup, massage and stuff.
Okay.
So there's no nails.
Yeah. So if it were to be a hair salon, the board of health would require a tight tank.
Okay,
So we've got a tank shown here that basically can't be discharged into the groundwater. It's got to be pumped and taken off site.
you said that DEP approved the well location and are the wells currently in the wetlands or in the 25-foot no disturb
The
area?
wells are currently in the 25-foot no disturb area.
Okay.
DEP typically pushes to have these wells as close to resource area as possible, given those are the low points and primarily the best withdrawal areas to support development. So they actually pushed us to locate them as close to the rear site as we can. We proposed to stay outside of the resource area entirely, even though they do allow the wells to be installed in the resource area. And that worked out well for a number of reasons, right? We have this zone 1 radius that we can't do any development in. We also want to be respectful of the surrounding abutters and not push the soil absorption fields right up against Washington Street and expose all this area visually along the Washington Street frontage. We're trying to maintain that existing character. So by siting the wells where we have, it allows us to pull the soil absorption systems a little further into the interior of the site, keep the development focused in the already cleared area, and provide all the infrastructure we need to support the project.
So the area to the top, is that the equivalent of the septic system for all of the houses?
These 2 areas here, yeah, so these light green areas this is for the residential component here, this rectangular one. And then they're both rectangles, but the more square shaped one is to support the commercial development.
And so the well is going to be supplying just the residential housing or the housing and the 2 businesses?
Yeah, so the proposed wells would support both the residential and the commercial uses.
And what's in place to help pay for that over the next couple of decades? Is there a a usage fee assessed to people living in the houses and the businesses?
Yeah, Mass DEP has very specific guidance for how these wells are, and
Okay.
public water supplies are financially
Okay,
taken care of. Typically, they would require that those residential users have control of the public water supply. Because you really can't have residences without water. Commercial uses, there's an ability to survive without the water demand. So we would expect that DEP is going to look for the homeowners association or some residential entity to maintain the financial, the necessary financial components and operations and maintenance of the well.
okay, that's my questions at this point. We'll work our way around. Leah?
I've got some landscaping questions, but just one other question. So where does the septic's not a tight tank. It's not anything like that. So where is leaching field gonna be and where is that gonna drain to?
Let me jump ahead a couple of slides here. So, yeah, so this plan shows the utility infrastructure. The tight tank I was talking about is over here for this use if it were to be a hair salon. For the market, we have grease trap and septic tank located outside jurisdiction. There's a lift station that'll pump those flows all the way up to a recirculating sand filter and a dosing pump that'll push the flows out to the soil absorption field. Similarly, for the residential, we have sewer lines that are going to capture all the services to a septic tank at the lift station, getting pumped up to a recirculating sand filter and a dosing pump.
Okay, and when you say recirculate, where's that gonna
It
recirculate?
recirculates inside the structure, so it's a concrete structure filled with sand. Because we are within an interim wellhead protection area, so we've got a zone 1 radius and then there's an interim wellhead protection area that goes beyond that. It's considered a nitrogen sensitive area, so we have to provide some additional level of treatment to get the discharge rate needed for the proposed project.
Okay,
One of those options to deal with the nitrogen loading is to put the effluent through a recirculating sand filter before the discharge.
okay, and then the infiltration pond,
Yeah, right here.
when that's full, it's gonna drain somewhere. Where is that gonna drain?
Yep, so there's, just jump back. If I
And
can.
then I'll ask my landscape.
Yeah, I'll just use this. This is good enough. I can use this one. I don't want to mess up the presentation. So there's an emergency spillway proposed here. There's an outlet control structure on this side that's piped out to the stone for the emergency spillway. Discharge will eventually get to this large massive wetland behind the property here. But the infiltration basin is being used to deal with recharge, to deal with peak rate attenuation, and to deal with water quality treatment in concert with the deep sump hooded catch basin and the water quality structure.
But essentially, it's gonna empty into the wetlands.
As it does today, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this, from a topography standpoint, if you're not familiar with the site, everything on this site pushes back this direction, with the exception of a little sliver of land along Washington Street. And some of the existing development along Route 16 is directed towards the infrastructure, 16 untreated.
Okay. Landscaping wise, I really like it if, are you keeping trees, which I think I saw on the
Yes.
design, which is good. Yeah,
This is woodland to remain.
okay.
This light green here is the bordering vegetated wetland, which we're not going to touch.
What about the trees at the top there?
These trees here are all existing trees to
Okay.
remain, so we're really making a concerted effort to make Washington Street continue to look like it does today. So
Okay.
we're not proposing to take down any existing trees at 18 Washington Street.
I see maples. Do we have any Norways there?
Have to look at the
Okay.
map. There's a mix of species.
Okay, and I see some chestnut in there too. Okay, so, I think that, some of these plants that I see here are okay. You do have 3 invasives on your list, which is not a good thing. And a lot of things that aren't native. So if we're trying to replicate and recreate what we're taking away, we really should be stressing planting the natives. So I'm happy to let you know which ones I think need to go. I think you probably know if you have a good person working with you. And I would recommend that, any lawn or turf seed be mixed with clover. And that way, hey, you've got your fertilizer all in one, because clover is going to give you that nitrogen. You need to keep that lawn there, but it's also not going to be a monoculture. It's going to actually encourage ecology, which is really what we need to do. It doesn't look like you have a ton of turf there, but, and then when you pointed to the meadow, um, so that's gonna be your meadow area
Well,
or,
it's a field, so it's gonna be loam and seeded,
okay,
finished cover there,
right.
so it's.
Is that the seed that I see here? I'm trying to make this bigger. Is that gonna be the New England, nope. Tall fescue black, that's sod. Okay, so do we have a seed plan for that?
Same as the rest of the site.
Okay, so,
I've been taking into consideration any suggestions you may have.
okay. Are you hoping to make that a meadow?
It's gonna, when I say meadow, it's grass tip. It's gonna be mowed, it's gonna be maintained, it's a soil absorption field, so it can't be left to just go wild.
No, but you could use a sustainable seed mix that has lots of natives in it that like to be wet and the more soil there. So
Yep.
instead of just grass, you probably do a little bit better than just that. So I think that's all I'll say for now. I'll probably have questions afterwards, but I just want to make you aware of those things. That's what I would hope to see.
So if you have, if you can come up with written feedback, I saw an email, you started that. If you could get them to Isabella, she can funnel them along and then they would have a chance to look at them in the next 4 weeks and when they come back again.
Okay, that'd be good.
The development. Did I hear you say there's gonna be a
Questions?
an association,
Rock question.
Again,
the development part of it, the houses?
the residential component.
Right. Is there gonna be did you say a?
Homeowners Association.
Right.
John, do you want to talk a little bit more about what the current plans are for?
Why I'm asking that is talking about hanging the grass and the top of the septic field.
Yes, so I can address that. So currently our plans are to keep ownership of all the units in Rentham. So it would be all under our ownership and all under here. At some point, if we do decide to condoize them and sell them, then there'll be a homeowners association form. And there'll be a fee associated with each unit for upkeep of the public water supply and also the upkeep of the landscape.
The two houses on Washington Street, are they going to be rented out or are they going to be sold?
I believe 20 Washington would probably be sold as a separate unit. We're having a septic system design now separate for that one. And then the bond and 12, those would probably be rented out. Not, the reason is 20 sits on its own lot. Got a little small lot, it sits.
You know, I asked that question because the maintenance of the grounds, you know, as you said, you don't want to allow that septic field to get overgrown. Next thing in 5 years down the road, you'll have trees in it.
Yeah, and I do have a good seed mix I can recommend too.
I have a few too.
But, okay.
Yeah, I guess if this mowing this soil absorption, I didn't see that on the long-term operation plan. So that should probably be. added.
Yeah, there's mowing in the long term.
Mowing,
Plan and
okay.
stormwater operation and maintenance plan.
Yep. Including that meadow as well.
All areas that need to be mowed.
So you jumped the gun and skipped over Susan. So Susan, yep. you're up.
Yeah, I don't see any boring along everything about the wells. Can you tell me how deep they are, what kind of strata they are, pumping rates and all that?
We have to do a pumping test still. So
Okay.
we've got an approval from Mass DEP. We still need to perform the pumping test. We're anticipating the wells are going to be somewhere around 400 feet deep, but until we drill.
Oh, they're not drilled yet. Oh, I thought, okay.
Nope,
I was under the
not yet.
impression they were drilled.
Not yet.
Okay, and number two, all of the drainage around the units, the housing is plus this, the whatnot, the store. All those drains, where are those gonna drain to? All the French drains, whatnot?
Yeah, so all the impervious cover kind of focused in this area, with the exception of two small little portions of the entrances that currently drain towards Route 16, are all captured in a subsurface closed drainage system. All that's routed through a water quality structure for pre-treatment and then into this infiltration basin.
And do you have any provisions about the basin and the amount of rain that we have been getting, and plus it's probably gonna increase in the future? Obviously, you see provisions.
Yeah, we've designed it to comply with the stormwater management standards, and
Okay.
so
I haven't looked at
the
it.
local stormwater management permit requirement requires that we also look at
Yeah.
the NRCC data
Right, yep.
and design it to deal with those storm events as well. So we've done that.
Right, great.
Have you been looking at the new stormwater regs that are coming along? I know there's a grace period over the summer where people get to, but if this extends out, you end up having to conform to the new standard.
Yeah, I've started to take a look at those. So I'm a commission member in Hopkinton, so between my engineering responsibilities and my commission responsibilities, it's something that's been on my mind and I've started to dig into. Right now, the project's designed to comply with the current standards. If at some time down the road, these drafts become the new regulations, then we'll reevaluate where we are relative to.
Has this been approved by the planning board?
We are in the process of approval with the planning board. We met with them on the 18th of this month to present the project and gather some feedback from the board. We've since received peer review comments from Graves Engineering. We're working on addressing responses to those comments. And any of those responses.
Do you feel that there'd be any major changes?
I don't. Based on the civil engineer's comments, they are very minor. We're taking another look at some sizing associated with the infiltration basin. But other than that, relatively minor comments, just some requested tweaks here and there.
When did you submit for a DEP number?
We submitted when we submitted the permits. It's still incoming.
Right, okay, so we're waiting for their review comments.
Correct, yep.
And so they should get whatever they have as their review comments, you should be prepared to respond to in 4 weeks.
We'll respond to them. If we get a DEP comment or a number in between the time of then and now, then we'll respond to those alongside of Isabella's comments.
Well, we'll get those comments.
Yes, we do.
We'll get them, so.
I think
So
we're
when they
18
respond to
from
them, they'll be
when JD
responding
left.
to us.
Susan, do you have any other, any?
That was it for now. I'm just gonna pick this up.
Mike, do you have any other comments?
Not right at the moment.
Okay, turning to the commissioners on the phone. Dan. You
Yeah.
have any questions?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what was what's the feedback from DOT as far as the signaling? Is it, timeframe wise? Is that something that, it's being looked at and designed with DOT, or? I was just wondering what the timeframe was.
Yeah, in terms of the offsite traffic mitigations for the project, we're gonna have to go through an access permit process with DOT. We've been speaking with them. We understand they're working on their own project along the Route 16 corridor, so we'll be coordinating with them throughout. We also will be filing an ENF to go through the MEPA process to really kickstart the permit approvals at the state level.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tim?
No, that's it for now.
Okay, over to Bob.
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering, is that gonna be a 6-inch well or a 10-inch well because it's commercial and residential together?
Yep, so the proposal right now is to have 2 8-inch wells, both providing 6,000 gallons per day for total withdrawal rate of 12,000 gallons per day.
And that's really close to the wetlands. I didn't see anything on there for protecting the wetlands while you're drilling that 400 feet. What's your plans for that?
Yeah, we'll provide erosion sedimentation controls down gradient of the 2 well locations and the access drive that we'll be utilizing to get the rig back there. Given the proximity of the wetlands, it's likely we'll use a double perimeter barrier combination of like a silt fence and a compost filter tube.
And then lastly is straight lines are always the best way to go. So from the grocery store to the septic design, seems like you're going underneath the houses. Is that the way that's gonna go? Or are you gonna go around the houses? How are you getting to the septic field?
Yeah, it's kind of tough to see on the plan, but if you look at this kind of the center of the market, the rear there, where there's a septic tank and grease trap label pointing. If you follow that directly to the left side of the page, is a straight line. But
He's on, it'll be easier if you.
Oh, okay.
Move your easel over.
Yeah.
And point on the easel.
Well, you could also just use the mouse.
There we
on the
go.
Computer.
even better. Even better. All right, can you see the mouse now?
I can see it, yeah, and
Yeah,
I,
so-
I zoomed in, so I was able to see that.
Perfect. So we got septic tank and pump chamber here. The force main line cuts right through the middle of the
Right.
residences, so straight line. And then takes a turn up to the recirculating sand filter and dosing chamber.
Has that design been approved?
We will have to go to the Board of Health
So
to
it's
get
still-
approval. So
That-
yeah,
I
Yeah,
hope
so
you
the-
never have a problem with the pipe. That's tight. How much space is in between each building?
roughly 20 feet between each unit.
Well, at least you can fit an excavator in there if you gotta dig it up again. Might not be able to turn it, but you can get it in there.
Yeah, so we've done some initial soil testing for the soil absorption system. Just like with the public water supply, we're gonna have to go through an approval process with the Board of Health to show that our proposed wastewater disposal
So
system.
you've got a preliminary design.
This is preliminary design. Yeah,
Okay,
correct.
what's the elevation of the pipe cutting through the development?
The elevation of this pipe, we haven't gotten into that level of detail. It's a force main, so it's gonna be at least,
Oh, it's force main,
yeah, this is a force main cut.
so it'll be at least 4 feet deep.
Yeah, it'll be at least.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 or 3 inch, 3 inch at most.
It's not like it's a big septic. 2-inch pipe. They actually can almost put it in with a small trenching machine.
Yeah.
For the well exploration work, is that going to be something else that you come before us and present a detailed description of what you're planning on doing that close to the wetlands?
We intend to get that approval through this process for the project. So given the timing of everything, we would anticipate that we can get through this approval process. So it can be one approval for the installation of the exploratory wells, which will become the permanent wells for the water supply, as well as the work within the buffer zone for the project. So if you don't mind, I can jump a slide, take it back to Tom, just to talk a little bit about the specifics of our request under this notice of intent, both under the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw.
Yeah, so I mean, Matt kind of described everything at a high level of detail. The most impacts that we're gonna have is just this area right here where our wells get close to the wetlands. Most of our impacts are gonna be pervious, that being the access drive to the well and pump house, our infiltration basin, and then our only area that's actually gonna be impervious is these 2 houses
Excuse
right
me.
here. Yes,
Tom, can you use the mouse and?
Absolutely.
kinda Guide through where you're talking about?
yep.
Thank you.
So going back to it, the closest area we're actually coming to the wetlands themselves, there are 2 wells, which Matt described in great detail. The rest of it is going to be mostly pervious impacts, that being the access drive, which is located right here. We also have the woodland walking trail, which is this line right here. And then parts of our soil absorption system is also going to be pervious impacts. And then additionally, our infiltration basin. The only impacts that are actually going to be pervious are going to be the 2 single family houses, which is located here and then right here. We're also going to be building within bordering land subject to flooding. However, we're not going to be changing any of the grades to put in this gravel path. So we don't need to provide any additional or compensatory storage because we're not going to be impacting. We're going to be keeping the existing grade out there. So at this point, if you have any questions for the wetlands impacts, I'd be happy to answer them.
I guess the grade for the gravel road isn't on the plans. As you're saying, you don't need to provide the compensatory storage because it's gonna stay the same. Will you be leveling out? The gravel's gonna have to be level if it's slanted or the elevation goes down.
The gravel drive will follow the existing grades. So there's no proposed grades shown because we're gonna install it at existing grades. So those grades are representative of the final condition.
Okay.
If the 2 wells need any machinery maintenance, how are they going to be going on an uneven gravel path?
No, this area is very flat towards the rear of the site in the woods. So I don't want to just guess at the slope, but it's around 5% or less coming down through here, and then really flattens out as you get down towards the 50-foot buffer line. Really, it's a drill rig that comes in to drill the wells. Once the wells are installed, they're active underground. There's a pump in the well system. Those pumps have a lifespan of 20 to 30 years. The only reason to go back down to that well is if a pump fails, you need to replace it. So it would be another short-term minimal impact activity if they need to bring a crane or something down there to lift a pump out of the well and replace it.
Is there gonna be a pump house there?
There is, yeah, so this, let me drive on the mouse here.
Not that one.
Oh yeah, maybe this one, sorry. So this area right here is a well pump house. And then there'll be a requirement for water storage. So part of the approval that DEP will go through with us will require some water storage on site. So we've got a water tank here.
What will be the security for that pump?
There's a perimeter fence around it that'll be gated and locked.
So there will be some, let's say, pickup truck travel to.
At most, yeah, you might have a pickup truck driving back
Well,
there to,
You'd wanna, my property, I'd wanna keep an eye on that.
yep,
So
yep.
I would presume there'd be a regular maintenance check thing in place where, whether it's once a week, once a month.
Yeah, so DEP requires testing of the water coming out of the well on a monthly basis.
Correct.
So there'll be at least someone down there in the pump house once a month taking samples and reading the meter.
Is there going to be a maintenance plan for the entire site infrastructure, talking about cleaning out the sand traps and well maintenance stuff and water testing?
Yeah, DEP has their program requires an operations and maintenance plan. As stormwater system also requires an operation maintenance plan. I'm sure, in general, you guys have an operation and maintenance plan for your properties that'll be implemented here as well. So we have a number of requirements we're going to have to comply with. We've got the stormwater management standards, we've got DEP's approval and the permit, which will have we have conditions for the operations and maintenance and management of the public water supply, and the Title V requirements for the wastewater disposal system.
Do you expect to have that maintenance plan completed by the time you're asking us to approve the order of conditions?
We have a maintenance plan already completed for the stormwater management system that's been submitted with the application. The other components, the maintenance plan for the wells will be pulled together when we are getting approval from DEP, which will be sometime in the future. And it'll have to comply with their requirements. Same thing with any maintenance requirements for the Board of Health.
Right, Board of Health will do
Yeah.
the septic system.
So this and the planning board process are kind of the first two steps. Once we complete that, get out of those processes with our permits, we then have to take the next step to go to the state level, get permits from them. And on the local level, the Board of Health for septic system.
Just so the board knows, we do have a third party company that takes care of we have multiple public water supplies. All the dealerships have public water supplies. The commercial property at 4549 Uxbridge Road has a public water supply. So we do have a third party company that monitors all the public water supplies, does the testing and submits it to DEP. It would be the same case for this.
They give the reports to the state and
Yeah, it goes
Board of Health.
Yeah. Right. And water.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go on.
what is the size of the tank for the holding tank? How many gallons would it be?
You're referring to the water supply storage tank,
Yes,
correct? My understanding in the conversations to date with DEP is it's going to need to be a minimum of 72 hours of storage. So they're going to have about 36 to 40,000 gallons. And that's what this shape you see on the screen represents.
what is that, about a 12-foot diameter or 16-foot diameter?
Going off of memory, I believe it is a 20-foot diameter tank that's 8 feet tall.
8 feet, okay. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to ask about the location of the wells. I understand you're working with CEP, and they are saying the wells are okay where they're putting them, but DEP regulations are strictly regarding the resource area. Mendon bylaw has the 25, 50, 100-foot area. So we're going to have a justification for why you can't move the wells further away out of our 25, 50-foot areas.
Yeah, and the opinion on that is that in your local bylaw, there are exemptions for temporary work that's minimal, limited in nature for purposes of design and planning. As long as there's erosion sedimentation control provided. Well, fall under that exemption, however, we're proposing as part of this overall.
I'm a little confused. Wells are temporary or they're limited?
The activity temporary. Once the wells are installed, like a monitoring.
Okay. One,
I do have something to add about that. So this was, just on the history of the project. This project was started a couple years ago, went to planning. And we got kind of stuck at zoning, so we went, the planning board submitted a new zoning overlay districts, because these have portable units too, like Mendon has, or any kind of small zoning. So this is in the overlay district. During that process, we went through multiple meetings with abutters on Washington Street. At one time, there was a petition of 300 abutters, people in Mendon that were against the project. So during those discussions, this buffer along Washington Street was very crucial to keep. So anytime we move the wells further out this way, this gets closer to Washington Street and we lose that buffer. So that was one of the main things that had us pushed. There was multiple meetings with, the town planner, the assistant planner, and representatives of the abutters in the neighborhood. Come up with a plan that we could keep as many trees as possible.
okay, so that's talking about the actual wellheads. Now I'll ask about the pumping station. They get pushed back a little further away from the buffer zone.
You're talking about the well pump house and the water storage tank?
Yes.
So right now they're located outside the 50-foot no build
Okay.
buffer zone. The only work within the 50-foot area is these gravel access drives to install the wells, and then they'd be left behind in the event that, down the road, you need to remove the pump.
Yeah. The path that you have going that just sort of, you have a straight coming down and then it curves. That is aesthetically nice. Trails are sort of, fuzzy ground in terms of being the 25-foot no disturb. Especially if it's for recreational use. Is this going to be a recreational trail or is this an access trail to get into the wellhead?
It's just a woodland trail for recreation, so we can certainly push this portion of the trail. There's no real rhyme or reason that we can meander the trail however we see fit.
We may give you feedback on that in the
Yeah.
next couple of weeks.
Yep.
What about, I know might sound silly to ask right now, because the last 3 winters have been very minimal for snow, but
Good question.
where's
Yeah,
the,
good question.
we got 2 feet of snow, which is not unheard of. Where are you gonna stockpile it?
So we have some dedicated snow storage areas in the front of the commercial development for that parking lot. And then the loop road, if you will be treated like any other subdivision in town where the plows will push the snow to the edge of the road. And then I believe, John, correct me if I'm wrong, in the event we had a substantial snowstorm like that, there'd be an opportunity to potentially remove the snow if needed to support operations of the commercial development.
If you're pushing the snow on the side of the road, is that going to overwhelm the retention pool down on the bottom?
No snow will be directed into the retention pond, so there's a guardrail here. That'll be kind of the first barrier. And then this retaining wall that defines the eastern edge of the retention basin will extend above grade. Grade actually transitions back away from the pond slightly, as well as a chain link fence that'll enclose the basin, given the residential component of it.
And
Shipping and falling in there.
the snow areas in the front by 6 feet, 16 in the commercial, is there filtering and whatnot so that if there's sand and salt concentrated in an area, that'll get caught?
So any precipitation that falls on the site will be captured by the closed drainage system. We've got deep sump catch basins And then we have the water quality structure for additional pre-treatment prior to reaching the treatment.
Okay, the operation plan, operation maintenance plan would say how many years it is between the first.
Yeah, current DEP guidance is to inspect every quarter. I've been through a number of studies now over the years, and cleaning typically once a year is more than adequate. But it all depends on site conditions. So the number of times, how frequently these inlets are cleaned are going to be dependent on the use on site and the accumulation of sediment.
And so for stormwater standard number 3, low impact design and environmentally friendly site design, all of the drain holes are going to this one basin. Were there any efforts in the commercial parking lot for bio retention cells and rain gardens? Because there's no storage under the parking lot. So more pre-treatment prior to getting to the one infiltration basin.
Yeah, so the current design complies with all the standards. We provide deep sump-hooded catch basins, the water quality structure. It's like 94% TSS removal prior to reaching the infiltration basin. So we meet that standard there. We did consider some low impact development measures, no impacts to wetland resource areas, maintaining as much existing woodland area as possible, and clustering the development to minimize the footprint. So clustering the residential in a tight design like this, as well as the commercial up front. So those are 3 low impact development measures we've provided for the project, and they're outlined, I believe, both in my stormwater report and certainly on the stormwater checklist under the LID measures.
Are there any plans for some pervious pavement?
No plans for pervious pavement at this time. Nope.
Question for John. You said that you had meetings over the past couple of years with people in the community. Is there someone in town hall who's helping to participate in those meetings so we can get input from?
Yeah, so,
The reason is I want to say Concom would be interested in pushing things that way. I want to hear someone in town staff who would say, no, there actually was a lot of community support for pushing things.
yeah,
that
so
way."
specifically, the main driver of this buffer zone was Jay Kraus, who lives directly across the street. He's currently a planning board.
Okay, so we can check in with them.
And he was the one that had originally circulated the petition against the project, and we met with him many
Okay.
times to get the project to where he was acceptable with.
Okay, so we can reach out to him to negotiate. Maybe it moves up a little bit and not enough to make him feel uncomfortable and the members of the community he represents.
Yeah, just so you know that from the original like sketch that we did in those meetings, the septic system got a little larger on the actual design, and he already had comments about it, so.
How big is that?
We'll let you handle that, Colin.
How big is that buffer on the street there at Washington Street?
This buffer here.
Yeah,
Approximated, I'd say is between 60 and 80 feet.
and is that wooded? I'm trying to remember.
It's all the dark green represents existing woodland to the main.
So it's wooded with a lot of large pines with not much underbrush. That's.
Okay.
Bob, Tim, do you have any additional comments?
No, I heard something about 16 or 18 feet from what sounded like Washington Street, but I thought we had a 50, and this doesn't have anything to do with us, but I thought we had a 50-foot setback from the street on the front lot. Is that not apply because this is an existing house?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's an existing house. I was saying about somewhere in like the 60 to 80 foot range of existing woodland to remain along the Washington Street frontage.
Oh, okay.
Tim, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, any final questions? If not, I'll see if members of the community who are sitting in the audience wish to have any questions or make any statement.
I do. Peter Goffin, real Sawmill Road. With my wife, we own 31 Hastings, which abuts the only place that doesn't have trees planted for a buffer, but that's an issue for the planning board. I get confused a little bit between, you know, Concom, what's in our authority, especially when it comes to stormwater, because that's gonna, so I think that wants to be the focus of my comments tonight. Not all of it, kind of with you. I planted a garden in there, have for 20 years. That is a very high groundwater. I'm stepping in the water right now, you know, and my neighbor who's next to me, he put in his raised septic system, and so it's a very high ground. I did notice, I'm glad that it's going to be kept in ownership, because if that was individual owners, how are you gonna, you know, the landscaping and fences and those are more aesthetics. Again, we're getting away, that's not necessarily Concom issues, but those are kind of general things. My general thing from a Concom is drainage and that high groundwater. Somewhere, I was at the planning board, and so I'll be interested in the town's review. Evidently, you're doing a hell of a job treating it with like some high duty, the paving area, right? You're treating that stormwater before it goes into the infiltration.
Correct.
So I'm sure you're going to be meeting all the standards on that. I guess my concern with it's with the volume. And so what is getting counted and what is getting into those pipes? So I gather all the commercial area, the rooftop, and all the parking lot. I gather all the manholes that are in the cul-de-sac circle, which is how wide, Dave?
24 feet.
24 feet, and that's gonna be two
Two-way circulation, yep,
Is there a sidewalk around?
there is.
Yes, good. Okay, so all that water that goes into those manholes is going. Does that get pre-treated before it goes into the? Okay. My real question is, now all those roofs and the downspouts, are those going to be connected to the system?
Yes,
So now my question is, I don't know if you have this number, but just eyeballing it there. If I had to say imperviousness of the whole site, you're more than 50% impervious.
no, well under 50.
With the whole commercial and all those houses and all I don't know, I did.
Yeah,
And by the time a gravel road is, I know it's not paved, but it's, I don't call it pervious. I don't call those a tank and a structure pervious. And so I'd be interested in what those numbers are, but that's not critical. My more concern is that all those gallons are taken into consideration. And that it looks like a pretty small infiltration, and I know there's not sandy soils.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off and ask Isabella, what's the status of the stormwater being done, work being done by the planning board? Is planning board getting a peer review?
Yeah, Graves Engineering is doing the peer review and he already submitted some comments with it. I think you have, I sent Graves some additional comments based on the infiltration basin and going over the stormwater analysis. So Graves got the same ones that I sent to Tom this afternoon. I don't know if you have those yet, but.
I do, yeah, they passed them on.
So those are going to be public record, and the person sitting in the audience as a private citizen would be able to get a copy of them from the town and review.
I guess my only other question is, we have an old house, 1831, it was built.
That's not old.
And it's got a French drain out of the basement and it goes to Route 16. I know other people don't have that luxury. And I know around town, it's often common practice to use sump pumps. So are those buildings going to be having a full basement?
The residential
Yes.
buildings? I don't believe so.
No,
It's going to be on a slab?
slab membrane.
Okay. Well, that answers that, I guess.
I do have a comment though. As we were going through this the first time through planning board, some of the directive bodies had major concerns about the hydrology. So at that time, planning board, besides Graves review, did send it out to an outside consultant about the hydrology in the area. Also at that time, Joyce Gilmore had some questions about the groundwater elevations from the original perk test. We went on and re-perked the whole site a second time to confirm all the ground.
So that would take into account his concerns about the high
Yes.
water table and, okay.
Yeah, we have a number of test bits that were performed throughout the site, including within the footprint of the infiltration basin. So we're aware of the groundwater elevation. It was all taken into consideration during the design of the system.
And that'll have the 2 foot from the bottom of the
Yeah.
basin.
Minimum 2 feet of separation from the bottom of the basin to the seasonal high groundwater.
Yeah.
So we're actually, just to add a little bit more color to that, the lower half of the infiltration basin, we're actually bringing in a little bit of fill there to increase the separation from groundwater to help ensure that infiltration is going to occur.
Are there any other slides or presentation things you want to make?
This is it. We just touch on the requests that we're making. So request for an order condition under both the Wetland Protection Act and the local bylaw, and we can get into the justification a little bit more later as we go.
Yep. And this may be a project where we end up issuing the DEP and then an additional one based on the local bylaw, depending on how complex it is. So let me summarize what we should expect in 4 weeks between now and the next time you're. So we will end up continuing this until the meeting 4 weeks from now. So we're expecting that you will be reviewing and responding to Isabella's comments, the additional ones that Leah was bringing up with respect to landscaping and trees, and she will work with Isabella to get you some additional feedback there. Did you have anything about?
I'm interested in being the approved septic plan.
Right, so we would not finalize, we would not approve anything until the Board of Health and the Planning Board have gotten their approvals, because we're downstream of them.
Yeah.
So that would take care of that.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
The Board of Health approvals are a construction level approval. So we won't be going to the Board of Health for a disposal system construction permit until we have approvals from the commission, the planning
Oh.
board, DEP, DOT, and other state agencies.
Okay, this,
Board of Health, their septic reviewer is reviewing the project, so he's looking at the sign. So we will get comments probably within the 4-week period, but I don't think they'll be specific to construction.
okay, do you want something more than that? What would you be looking?
No, I understand the procedure.
Okay, I don't. All right, and then finally, we would hope that DEP is able to come back with the report. What'll happen is if we don't get something from DEP in 3 weeks, we will, sort of nudge them and say, we've got a hearing, can you bump it up one or two? And see about getting their comments in. Yes,
A question about during construction, because that's often where we run into the problems is, and I'm wondering where the settling basin is, and what the sequence will be. Because I don't think you told me can use the infiltration basin as a settling basin until you get it all designed. So, something along those lines of during construction.
Yeah, so for construction term, we're going to be serving more than an acre, as you can clearly see here. So we're going to be required to submit for a construction general permit through the EPA. So we'll have a stormwater pollution prevention plan that'll comply with all the requirements of that construction general permit. And it'll be implemented for the project during construction. As part of the notice of intent filing, there's an erosion sedimentation control plan that shows the minimum measures that'll be installed for construction. That identifies some perimeter controls, some diversion channels to make sure the flow is being directed to these temporary sediment traps sprinkled throughout the site. As you're likely aware, during construction, right, there's different phases, there's different pieces that are going up at different times. So the contractor's ultimately responsibility to comply with the permit and adjust the on-site areas to make sure that they are and they stay in compliance.
Isn't there a plan required in the stormwater permit for construction where the settling basin is supposed to be?
Yes, that's in the notice of intent plan. So.
Okay, thank you.
all right, if there's no other questions from people online or in the commission, we will. What's the date of the meeting 4 weeks from now?
I think it's maybe the 26th. So John would have to request the continuation.
Okay, so can you give us a date for that?
25th. I will pet it.
Good guess.
Okay, so I will wait for someone to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for the notice of intent until April 25th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bob, I.
Tim, I.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. We'll see you back on this project in 4 weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you everyone for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so go to stay sitting there. Top agenda item number 4, 4549 Uxbridge Road, DEP 218-0824. Review enforcement order, SWIP plans and proposals for peer review. At the request of the applicant and their attorney, we are postponing this for 2 weeks. We'll have a nice cadence here. We'll see you again. You'll continue your streak of coming in. And we will communicate with you in the meantime about what we would be discussing at that meeting and make sure you and your attorney are comfortable and prepared for when we come in and make a deliberation. And while you're here, I'll just ask an update on the ANRAD for 134 North. That's still out.
In the works, I've just been so busy with.
Yep.
this project and.
Okay, and so there's no construction going on that site. It'll wait until we go through the process here. Okay. So that takes care of agenda item number 4. So I think that's all you're here for.
Thank you.
So Peter, you can come back and join us now. All right, agenda item number 5, expired order of conditions. Discuss expired order of conditions for 49 Milford Street, DEP 218-0795, and expired order of conditions for 63 Providence Road, DEP 218-0805. Take any action required.
So both of these sites, I'm going through all the permits that have been approved since 2020. Before that, Bill McHenry was still here, so most of the paperwork is up to date since then. But these 2 sites were larger construction sites that have expired permits. And so I sent them both letters. I got a response from 49 Milford Street. I still haven't had a response from 63. But 49 Milford Street, they said they were under the impression that they had a permit under COVID and that they had another year extension. I confirmed with DEP and she said, no, that was not a permit offered in COVID. So DEP advised them to stop work. They are still working inside the building, but they are not working outside, and they will be reapplying with Concom. So we'll expect to see that either next meeting or the following meeting. And a similar thing will be happening with 63 Providence.
Milford Street. Why is that familiar?
That's
That's the
the,
old garden shot or what is the
it's
purpose?
the adult entertainment site where they're working.
Oh,
Been under construction for quite some time there.
I see. So they have to refile now?
Yes, their permit expired in October.
I know you want that to get done.
They can work on the building.
Yeah, so they're currently doing, they're doing the sprinkler system inside the building.
It's gonna get hot in there. They'll need.
I'm sure it'll be. I'm sure it'll be a fast application.
I haven't been by there. What is the status of the
I think they've built,
of the dirt work around?
I think they've paved the part that goes in the back that's nearest to the wetlands. So I think if they are that far and that part is completed and it's just grading left on the sides, I don't know how much work they have, but their engineer requested a year extension to 2025. when saying that they had a COVID permit. So I think they still need to reapply for a
Well,
3-year permit.
DEP said they have to reapply.
Yep.
A whole new filing.
Bob Sweet, can you help refresh my memory? Was this where the old,
Yeah.
True value?
no, the old
no.
plant store used to be?
Yes,
And so there was a little bit of wetland in the back there.
yes.
And there was a hubbub over there.
Yep.
So that's that lot, right?
So we
So that wetland should still be there, right?
That wetland
So
should still,
when they
should still be there.
I don't know.
When they reapply, we'll be looking for
You
it.
driven by that?
I drive it by, but
Yeah, it's a mess.
it's yeah, it's a mess.
We'll be scheduling site inspection with the new notice. So I didn't need to go out yet.
Because then the other question is, where does the water come from Route 16? It's somewhere there's like a mystery pipe getting water from the north side of Route 16 to the south side. And then once there, it gets into that wetland system.
Well, because of all the work's been done, we gotta treat this like a whole new filing.
I think almost, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, did you see the last rain event where that, Peter, exactly where you're talking about? The water was just sheet flow going across the front of the building and hitting the guy next door. I don't know if you noticed how flooded out it was, but it's coming from Route 16, or either that or from Bob's side of the, isn't there a pipe under the road?
So
Bob,
we're also, Tag and Bond is contracted with the highway department, so they're doing an inventory of all culverts that are going under our roads. So there is work being done to inventory some of these things. But Route 16 is the state, so I don't know what they know.
They doing that for the state?
No, this is
Who's
probably.
Ty and Bond doing that for?
Probably the.
Tag and Bond is doing it for the highway department under stormwater. Yeah.
Our highway department.
Our highway department, yes.
Oh.
Your taxpayer dollars at work.
No more Providence Street.
It's mostly funded by grants, actually, so far, their work.
Well, they're not raising that. Probably gonna get undermined and somebody's gonna go into the water next time they go underneath.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep, Bob?
what I can say is, I know that there's a catch basin right at the corner of 58's property. And that catch basin is the only catch basin on the street.
I don't have
There's
any at
none
all.
down near my house, so I'm assuming that's
You
the
live
one
near
that crossed the
What?
street.
Where are you?
Hopedale Street.
Okay,
50
Well, we'll
Milford-
find out more.
that was
Drainage.
58 Milford Street. If you drive there where they cut down a big 30-inch diameter tree, you'll see the stump there, and right in front of it, you'll see a catch basin that has no reason to be there. So I'm assuming that's the one that must cross the street.
Well, we'll be getting a copy of the report, I presume.
I don't know when that's coming, if it'll be in this timeline, but eventually
You know,
they
I-
will have an inventory of all the
Maybe
pipes.
we could reach out to the highway department and ask and, you know.
Yeah,
say
I
we're
can-
Concerned and would like to be kept abreast of this particular.
Well, and this one
project.
also, it might be the state issues, right? So.
If it's
whose
Route
catch basin
16.
Is it, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked.
It is
Basically,
Route
who's
16
paying for
and it
this?
is state mandate. It's state
They don't-
control.
Right, but
Ordered, maintained.
who's paying the engineering outfit, Ty and Bond?
For the whole town-wide assessment, it's the town, but my sense is they might not have Route 16 as part of their scope of work, because it's not a town-owned crossing.
I can reach out,
Yeah,
Catch basin.
I can reach out to the highway department and see what inventory they have of basins on Route 16.
so for 49 Milford Street,
Thank
we're
you.
expecting an NOI submittal we would be doing that in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or maybe 6 weeks.
Probably at least 4 weeks because of a butter notification.
Okay, 63 Providence Street, what commercial project is that?
That's, Providence Street, if you go past where the fire department, if that right, it's the next one and there's,
Oh, yeah.
the big sign. So I haven't seen if they're actually still working. I sent them a letter in the mail.
Is that a residential subdivision?
Yeah, I think so.
No, I think it's, just, it's a weird site plan. I can't tell exactly what it is. I haven't looked. But But so if they don't respond to the letter, I'll follow up and call with similar instructions that 49 Milford is getting.
Well, you can send them a letter with the same instructions and ask them to contact us and say, don't do any outside work until. Yeah.
Resubmit, yeah.
We received instructions from DEP about what to do in the case of a commercial project with an expired permit, and we want to apply them equally to both of these commercial projects.
The remainder of the expired permits are all mostly single-family homes and it's septic work. So the response I'm getting from the letters I sent to those people is that they had gone to the Board of Health with their as-built, didn't know the permit's still open. So those don't have active construction the same way these commercial projects do. The last thing I'll add is I also can't find their general construction permits, and they've cleared over acre of land, so their SWIP should have been submitted. And so if these two projects, as they get permitted again, I would be expecting to see those and any work that was done in the past.
With all these single family homes that are expired permits, can we clean those up with the paperwork as long as they have the as-bills? And
So,
you'll go out and inspect, make sure the grass is growing, I guess, or?
yeah, so I guess that's procedural wise. If Board of Health has the as-built plan, the certificate of compliance is $15 with Concom, and if they recorded the OOC on the registry of deeds, they do need the certificate to close out that permit. So they do need to do it. Typically, it comes up when they try and sell the house.
That's the, over the 30 years plus. I can't count how many times I'm selling my house and I can't because
Yeah.
the red flag there because I got an outstanding
Yeah.
order of conditions that didn't get signed.
So thank
Now
you
they
for
all
cleaning up the paperwork.
I got letters. I'm not going further than 2020 because that's Bill McHenry's problem, but
Yeah,
starting with these ones.
that's like pulling teeth. I'm sorry. I'm so, good job.
Any other discussion about expired order of conditions? Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8, building permits. We already spoke about 134 North Avenue. What's the status for 93 Northbridge Street?
So they want to add, this is the first house kind of in the Sylvan Springs. It's still on Northbridge Street, so it's at the very bottom. They want to add a 12 by 24 garage with a foundation to the house. It's in the 50-foot buffer. There's order of conditions for the actual house wasn't closed, so they also need to close that before they do a new permit. So they are working to get that one closed as well as submit a request for determination because it is outside of the
This is
50-foot.
the homeowner, someone's living in the house.
So he needs to reach out, or I have to call the builder and get that because the same guy for all of Sylvan Springs. But it's outside of the 50-foot, so he can do an RDA, not a full NOI with a better notification.
So the expectation is we would, at the same meeting, close the one and then issue a determination. Okay. And until that happens, he isn't able to build his garage, so he'll get in front of us eventually.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, agenda item number 9, conservation agent updates. You said this might take a little while.
Yeah, I was going to type them up, but I didn't get to it. So I don't know if I do these agent reports. I think moving forward, I'll have it written up of everything.
Spending 20 hours this past week on something else.
So the select board did move forward with a new town and interim town administrator, Greg Balakonis. He's on a 3-month contract. His first day's Monday. So David's last day was today. We met him. Yeah, 3 months. So he's new. Key fobs, the town hall is open. Town hall hours are 8 to 4. The doors unlock automatically, but the handle doesn't go. So you just have to pull. We're going to put signage up. And then for meetings, it's either 5:30 or 6:30 to 10. So that'll be automatic. So that's those two.
So the doors will be open.
The doors are open. Yeah. So previously I was unlocking everything
Sure.
for meetings. So now they're just open. So they'll lock at 10
Automatically?
automatically. So you can get out, you can't get in.
And this will be unlocked on any evening that there's a meeting in here, but
Yeah.
not other.
Yeah, not otherwise, only if there's meetings.
Right.
And there's like a little red, green light by the door on the key fob. And yeah, employees and chairs have key fobs to get in.
Yeah, I have a key fob, so I will start bringing it in my pocket in case we leave at 10:01 and, oh, I needed to get back in again and not have to worry about that.
I think police chief also has a key, so if you're, have reason, you can get
They
in.
issue you a
Yeah.
fob? Good.
It's this little tiny black.
It's here.
Even not a problem.
And it doesn't work for the annex yet. We need to replace the whole door. So we still have a key for now. I got,
Be collecting old keys. I have one. I think Susan has one.
yep, it's
Are these no good
coming.
anymore?
They still work, so they're going to collect everyone's keys who has them eventually.
Let us know when they're recalling.
I'm still waiting for Cape Road restoration plan. They were not ready. I got 13 Bellingham Street. The stockpile location is 43 feet from the wetland. It's in the top right. There have wattles and silt fence around it on the plan as well. So I did the administrative approval for that with the conditions we talked about last time. There was the 192 Providence Street where they're considering the public water supply for the town. They are on to the phase 2 of exploratory drilling, so they did end up taking a couple of trees down in that path, which was in the RDA that was approved in August. So they didn't need to come back before the board for that. But there was quite a bit of abutter complaints. Dylan went out, highway went out. So if you hear anything about that, it was permitted, and it was supervised. And it is before April 15th for breeding habitat. So they're considering all the issues.
So the neighbors didn't know what was happening and so they got,
So
I don't need to know, but.
yeah, they were, not all of them were notified the same way. And that's being discussed, so that doesn't happen again.
Good.
And then again, that's still exploratory, to see if it's a viable site. And so they are planning to they're moving forward with the aquifer protection district based on that site because it is a aquifer for so many people in Mendon. It's a really good aquifer protection. Is getting the district overlay is a great move, whether this site ends up being viable or not, to protect water for our grandkids. So that's
Not gonna have much water left once they put those 35 houses in.
different streams, I think.
I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
But
The thing you're talking about would cover not just where they're doing the exploratory drilling, it would be all up and down North Avenue and the whole, that eastern part of town.
Yeah, so that's on
Not Lake Nipmuc.
town meeting.
Well, and that's our best shot at an aquifer, either that or the real sandy soils in
Mhm.
almost Bellingham, but yeah.
The annual town cleanup efforts is scheduled Saturday, April 20th to May 5th. The different parties that are the highway department, everyone has agreed on those dates. So that's going through. Dan Byard and Jack McLeland, the Board of Health Administrator, we've been working on Lake Nipmuc testing schedule. So we currently have bi-weekly from June to September testing for different water quality things. And then E. coli, we have different sites around the lake. There is potentially a surplus of money since the fiscal year July 1st will change. We are looking at the water level loggers, getting those ordered. Those would do CTD, so conductivity, temperature, and depth. And so this logger with it, it would be, we planning to do it by the beach and then have it also the sensor would be sending the signal onto the, there would be a solar thing by the beach. And then if we ever did any more loggers around the lake, it would all hook up to that same system. So there's potential to expand that.
The water testing, are we getting the very expensive state certified tests so that we can take someone to court for contaminating with E. coli, or the relatively inexpensive one that just lets us know whether the water's safe or not?
You mean human versus animal
Yeah.
E. coli? So that, depending on how those E. coli tests come back, if we get something crazy, we would then take another sample and send it to the 2 labs. So we have a path to
Right.
get that, but we don't have to do it
So the
necessarily.
tests will be the cheaper ones, and then if necessary, we'd escalate and do the state certified ones.
Well, no, so all the testing is going to be with the state certified lab.
Oh, okay.
For this first year. The E. coli is certified with the lab. If we want to do additional testing, we would send it to a second lab that would look at different E. coli types and whether it's geese or human.
Okay.
And so this will be on the Lake Nipmuc Task Force for next month. We just, the 3 of us did not have estimates or anything ready, and then we didn't post the agenda. So
Are you going to the task force meeting?
yes,
Okay, so you're there with Bob. Okay.
yes, I'm there with Bob. Which I'm not on that task force, but I'm on the stormwater task force. So I don't know what the difference was, but I was put on the stormwater task force.
If necessary, we can say that the task force was created last year when we didn't have a clerk or an agent. If you think it's appropriate, I can go and talk to the select board and say you should be on ex officio.
I don't know. Depends on what the new town administrator wants me focusing on,
Okay,
and see how that goes.
let me know.
Give you a little more clout, yeah.
More hours you're spending on things other than Concom.
The Providence Street culvert closed. They washed out again Sunday or Saturday night, closed Sunday, worked Monday, Tuesday to reopen it. John has again approached me asking for help. I don't know, not asking for help, but trying to permit
What
it.
is the problem there? I don't understand the
So it's there are 2 metal corrugated pipes under Providence Street. They're 5 foot wide. They've mostly collapsed, so there's not enough flow to get through it at all. Which then led to the sinkhole on the side of the road and overtopping of the bridge in those December or January storm, I guess. Since then, they've done work to keep the road open. They've cleared out the pipes as they collapse so that there's some water passing through. And each time they've had to close the bridge, Mass DOT has had to come. It's now on their list as a small bridge, even though it's not a state road. So they must, every time there's a closure, they must come to certify it to reopen. And so
Excuse me, Mike, isn't that pretty common that the water kind of gets around the pipes on both sides? And
Yeah.
once that happens, you're screwed.
Especially,
It's like,
especially in a road and a culvert that old. You know, that road was built and those culverts put in before
in the 60s, yeah.
the culverts were enhanced in the
before,
60s,
before
right?
they improved
Before that.
specifications.
Yeah.
So after speaking with John, I reached out to Mass DP, our circuit rider, about how to move forward with this. It seems as though because it keeps washing out, John is going to have to do a temporary fix. He wanted to put in a 3rd pipe. So he would have the 3 5 feet. I don't know the specific dimensions, I guess. But instead of metal corrugated, the plastic corrugated. Sorry.
Yes, or plastic, yeah.
Yep. So upgrading, he can't just add another 3rd pipe as a temporary change. He has to do it the same way. So
So it's not an emergency repair. He's going to do an upgrade.
emergency fix has to be the same way. If he wants to put that 3rd pipe, it's an upgrade. So he should be. It's, so I guess are any of you well versed in stream crossing standards, want to go out to the site and help advise John on how these temporary fix can go?
I'm not real up on it, but if it's his recommendation to put a third pipe, I don't know if that's just, usually the next one is a culvert, right? A box culvert. You need.
Yeah, so,
Oh, Isabella,
yeah,
would making some sort of cement head wall be an option? Maybe pour a form where the two pipes are and then put a cement wall that goes a foot lower than the two pipes and 3 or 4 feet wider than the area, and have two 45-degree angles on them so it directs the water to the pipes?
You'd have to get
An engineer.
it's gotta be a specific design for this.
yeah, so that's
why
the,
I just can't.
Can't wing it.
I guess, yeah, Jason, if you want to go.
Can't wing it, true.
Yeah, I was avoiding chiming in. So the story is, yeah, that's correct. So if any footing needs to go in, it turns into engineering, which means that we need an initial $50,000 engineering study to provide options before we can build anything. And then those options go to around $1 million, just depending on how complex the structure gets. And then because you bring in that, this is, I'm relaying what I heard from John over the last few weeks in our select board meetings, so this should all be public. As soon as you do the engineering, then that also means you need to do conservation engineering around the area as well. So like that's additional / optional depending on how we permit that. So back to the emergency change. One of the corrugated pipes is at 10% capacity or total volume, clear volume, and the other is about 50%. And so what's happening is when, and I'm guesstimating here from the numbers the other night, but there's essentially enough flow most of the time to meet the capacity that's available right now. And so he's just thinking if he clears out that, 50% on one pipe, 90% on the other, and then adds a third pipe, which I believe he wants 5 by 8, he is going to increase the total throughput volume of that culvert like 8 times or 7 times. And so that's his current logic. What he needs help with is whether or not his logic is sound. If someone can do the throughput volume calculations for him on the actual devices he's looking to replace, because it all does come down to money, and it has to be, it's not just the actual dollars, but it has to be correlated to a time in which we don't impact the town too much. And that's never when we have a storm, right? Like that's always when it's always the worst time. And so they can try to do it over spring break, trying to get ahead of any more of the storms that are going to come before deep summer is here, or we can wait till summer. The longer we wait, though, the more expensive it gets, and the higher the risk that the entire roadway gets washed away. So that's why he's pushing for more assistance, because we have a bit of money to throw at it, but not a lot of money to throw at it unless we change some priorities in the town. And finance was with us last night and was asking, if we could get some more firm numbers around why this type of replacement isn't an emergency replacement, is more of a permanent replacement if you're upgrading it, like you said, with the additional pipes. And so John's, getting a lot of pressure to replace it, but also hearing a lot of good advice about what to do. But, he's still the one making the decision. So he's really looking for some more scientific data to help him do that.
My only recommendation is go to the company that sells the pipes, and maybe they would do a limited amount of engineering design.
Well, From what we talked about earlier, we have an engineering outfit, Ty and Bond, who specializes in.
Yeah,
this.
thank you, Jason, for your
Yep.
update. So I met with John again today. And so John's temporary proposal to put that third pipe in does need to come before the commission. It can go as a emergency certification because he is a public health official. The threat to public health of the road washing out is high. Or the road washing out would be a high threat. And so that's where getting this done as something done for a temporary repair is necessary. However, doing the emergency certification under Mass DEP, there would be an expectation that within a couple of months, they would be going through with Tig and Bond to upgrade to a box culvert system. So this is what John and I went over today, is putting that third pipe in without engineering. I would be against advising him to do so. So I talked with Mass DEP and I'm gonna share, so.
Well, what are your options? To live with a detour around Providence?
No,
Well-
come up with the money and do it right one time instead of throwing nickels and dimes
Yeah,
at it.
so that's
and have it
my
fail.
my opinion too, is if John and all of his highway workers go out, they put all this effort to put a third pipe in. And then come August, when we maybe have grant funding, there's a Department of Ecological Restoration grant that I think is applicable. If we were able to come up with the money, the box culvert is the stream standard for this site. My concern with putting a third pipe in and allowing that flow to go through with these higher volumes, all of these lists are the ones that come with the stormwater stream crossings. Potential for downstream flooding, I think, would be increased if we're letting this high volume of water come through. The other thing is the other side of the culvert is area of priority habitat. And so that's also something we don't want to see.
We're not
Impacted.
increasing the volume. The volume of water is gonna be the same whether it's 2 pipes or 3 pipes, right?
It's gonna be the velocity of the water going through. That's what's gonna
Velocity.
cause the damage.
The velocity
That
changes.
water's
with the
gonna
third pipe.
whistle through there like nobody's business.
So this is exactly the information we need.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, if you could get that if you could like have that recommendation go to the select board and to John, or just
Mhm.
written so that we can talk about it at our next meeting on Wednesday, that would be.
How much
helpful.
money is in stabilization? Do you know offhand?
I don't know that number right now because we're right in the middle of the budget. And we haven't gotten to that line yet.
Yeah, I am planning to meet with John again on Monday. We're hoping with the new town administrator to maybe meet with him, not his first day, but his second day.
Yeah. And April 1st as well, right? So.
Yeah, right. So I can definitely type all of this up and provide any recommendations and hesitations I would have to doing a quick temporary fix.
Yeah,
So-
you're completely right. Does not make sense. If either way you need to go to the box culvert, then the additional work of it all does not make any sense.
So that's
It'd be
my,
helpful if Isabella were at the select board meeting, or should she just give information to John and let John take?
Well, I mean, it would be lovely if her and John, I assume John's gonna get on the agenda anyway, but if she has the ability to be there at that time, sorry, why I'm talking about you in the third person. If Isabella, if you're
I can
able
come,
to be there at that time, just coordinate with John, and yeah, I mean, this is the type of opinion that's pretty factual and easy to understand.
I have a quick comment. It might be eligible for municipal vulnerability, the MVP grant.
yeah, so there's currently funding for a MVP DER grant. It closes April 15th, and the engineering for Providence Street has already been done. Tig and Bond has done it with the open box culvert. So I think it's a straightforward application. I have to look into it more, so no promises on that. But the issue with that is the funding isn't gonna come through until July or August. And so that leads to the closure.
I got one question. I think you're doing a great job. Who's authorizing her to do this?
That's where she'd meet with the administrator on Monday.
Well, Dawn's coming to me to ask how the
Well, I
Culvert.
guess what I'm getting, I have no objection to you.
Mm-hmm.
You sound like you've got your arms around the problem. My concern is she's gonna be doing all this work. There's a monetary value involved. There's hours involved.
And now we're talking grant writing and.
So
Yeah.
again, we
2
need
weeks.
her services that were designated for us. I think she should go, but I think the Board of Selectmen should up the hours. I'm not sure what,
Yeah, we did go through, so I have temporary access to more hours. So I am doing 35 hours about every week.
whose budget is that coming?
It's in our budget and the wetland protection budget.
Right.
So those wetlands funds can't go
But-
towards this.
What, again, that's what I'm saying is if somebody's using our money to pay for things that are out of our jurisdiction or it's not our job, man. Why are we coming out of our budget? A budget should be put together.
Well,
I would-
what is jurisdictional is what is up on the screen now, where the correspondence she's having with DEP, there is a follow-on conservation impact as part of the culvert project. Is that a good?
Yeah,
summary?
I would counter a little bit, that assisting the town in a town project to get, they would have to come with an
I
NOI.
understand.
Yeah.
Again, I'm all for it, but let's not do it what's right is right.
Should we get some highway department budget to help? pay for
Right,
it?
exactly.
Mike, I hear you and I agree with you. I would say though, maybe just a little bit of good, you help the DPW out, they help you out, and then you use that as talking points at budget time when you go in front of the FinCom. If she's doing X, Y, and Z, boom, boom, boom.
If we had a full-time
But
permanent,
it shouldn't be our job. The people that are directing her to do this extra work should have a plan in place on how it's gonna get paid.
No one's,
I guess I'm looking at it as a finance.
no one's directing her to do the work. She is seeing the need to do the work and responding to someone who comes in the door. And she's getting the chair is okay,
well,
right? That's-
I'm gonna say, this is, if we had a full-time permanent administrator, the administrator would be the buck stops here person who would say, Isabella, it is now important that you work on these, and I would talk to the administrator and we cut back on some of the less essential Concom projects.
Yeah, I'd also say in my conservation agent proposal for select board, culverts is a big part of the job description. And it is a job description. Uxbridge, she is focusing a lot of time on getting culverts replaced in Uxbridge, because a lot of these 1920s, 1960s pipes are aging
Oh, yeah,
out.
Absolutely.
And the money's
So-
there. We gotta get it.
I do think it falls under conservation and it falls under the agent's duties. I agree, maybe select board should be made aware if I am going to help John focus on it. They can know, I think without a full-time town administrator, I still really don't have a boss. So
Well,
having that direction from the new interim, now that this
That's a
need,
matter of opinion. You work for us.
I work for the town administrator.
The town administrator, I went through this with HR last year. The town administrator
Is her boss.
is her boss, and the town administrator allocates her to work with us as a conservation agent
Okay,
and
so,
allocates her.
all right, I understand that now. That clears up a lot of them. So what is the allocation of her hours for us?
35 for now, right?
This is where we just lost our interim town administrator. The new one comes Monday. She'll talk to him and clear that up. So it's going to just be chaotic for the next week.
Yeah, so
All
far,
right,
so
then
far
we
I've
should be
only,
paying attention to it.
We are now, and that's why I'm saying, if she goes to the select board meeting, she'll be in their face and then they will value her and.
Right, and again, I want to stress,
With the
I think she's doing a
administrator.
great job, fantastic job. I'm very impressed with how she's handling everything.
Yep,
But I want to make sure this board does not suffer because we were the ones that needed a person like Isabel.
Yes, I worked with Isabella earlier today. One reason we don't have the minutes from the last week is I said, no, it's much more important for you to go preparing
Sure.
this 3-page document on the Hastings submission. The minutes will wait. I talked about some of the other things to defer.
I agree. That's why you're the chairman.
Yep.
But I'm just bringing up points
And
and I want, since we have a selectman that attends
Yep.
our meeting, quite, I want them to realize some of the concerns that, and they get, because if you don't mention it,
Yeah.
how's anybody gonna know?
and I
I'm
expect-
hearing you. I'm hearing
That's good.
you.
I wonder, you notice I was speaking a little louder to make sure you hear.
Loud and clear.
And I expect to be checking in with Mike Maroli at some point in the next week or two about how Isabella's dividing her time and how the Hastings
Right.
project.
I can't stress enough. I believe she's doing a fantastic
Okay.
job. Fantastic
Yeah,
job.
we got to get those golden handcuffs.
I don't
on
think
so
we
he
would-
doesn't leave.
And I think I'm speaking for everybody sitting right here tonight. We don't want to lose her.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
I said that to you several times in the park.
Yeah.
So back to your conservation agent stuff. So you're expecting to work on culvert and the Providence Street stuff. Any other?
Well, I think just guiding John through what requirements he has to bring forward before the board. And based on, I guess, meeting with the town administrator, how much help John needs and where they find the necessity.
So would it help if Bob talked to John about whatever this technical stuff that capacity flows or something he was asking for help with? Is that something
I
Mike or
think-
Bob would know something about?
The hydrology analysis of a whole site, the increase in flow with a bigger pipe, that's engineering. They need an engineer. It's not me. It's not a commissioner.
You've got to have.
It is an
you've gotta
engineer.
have an,
And that's the
It's gotta be an engineer.
$50,000. And that's the $50,000 about.
because there's liabilities.
Yeah,
You
there-
just can't go, oh, that'll work. And when it doesn't work and somebody
DEP said,
gets hurt.
DEP said when the little old lady washes away downstream
Right.
with the increased flow. So yeah, those are my concerns that John brought. But
It's obvious. Thank you.
should be on your radar. Emergency certification might come forward if they go through temporary, otherwise guiding the town, advising the town.
Yeah, well, my role as chair is to do stuff in between meetings on an emergency basis. So you got my phone number.
And then any NOI or anything, those fees are waived because it's the town and that kind of stuff. But I do think it's kind of up to an engineer. Yeah, so that's my agent report.
Any questions about that topic? And
What else we got?
agenda item 11, items not anticipated in advance of meeting. Anyone have any last minute stuff that's happened?
Just the level street thing, but
Okay, so the 20 Level Street. Oh, that's the across from the winery.
mm,
Okay, so why don't you say you made a drive by, so explain what you're seeing there.
sure. I know, I was nice enough to supply me with the information that you guys had already gone through this once, with this particular thing, but they are clearing more there and back on the left-hand side.
Is this parking for the
Yeah.
winery?
Yeah, we
Exactly.
talked about this last summer, 5 minutes before we interviewed her.
And now we're talking about again, they are clearing more land on that left-hand side if you're looking at the
The what?
property.
Clearing more land.
Is it his land?
It is, isn't.
But it is also, there's the wetlands are there.
How do you know it's the wetlands of it?
Uh,
Has it been flagged?
It hasn't been flagged, which
That's
would
the
be my
plan.
question.
The GIS locus, and when I went out last summer by eyeballing the end of his drive, at the end of the parking lot and the buildings. And then I could look at the Mass GIS locus and say, okay, let's measure down 200 feet. Nope, he's got clearance. If he's continuing to
He is.
work northwards, he's getting close to that 200-foot buffer, and we may want to ask for him to check in with us on this.
I think it's this lot.
Yep, that's it.
And where he's working is that left-hand side backwards.
The parking lot is now right here,
Yeah,
and
Can I point to where he's clearing?
yeah, you come
Like
up.
over there? And again, I can only see what I can see from the road, right? It's
And then-
private property. But if you're saying the parking lot ends here, approximately.
Yeah, this is the building that I took the picture of last summer. So this is this, so can you move the mouse here so Bob can see where my hand is? So this house down here.
Okay, so where he's clearing is here.
Yeah, if he's moving up north, he's going more closer to the.
on that crop, on the.
I'm
on
also
that
gonna
property
point
line?
out, this is a brook.
Yes.
So there's 200 foot.
Be 200 foot.
So it's something we might want to take a look at.
I do know it's still on hold by ZBA, about what the parking lot, so
It's
There-
cleared though. There's huge piles of trees. And there's one that you can see kind of from the road. And then I think I saw another one, probably a good 50, 75 feet again behind there.
That's the tree farm, right?
This is the Vandervalk Winery.
yes, that is the,
It
that
is
is
a
a
tree
Christmas
farm,
tree
too.
farm.
Oh, yeah, the Christmas
Okay.
tree farm, yeah.
But it's on the other side.
Where's, right.
It's
where's the
across-
tree farm
it's across the
in
street.
work?
South.
Across the street.
Okay.
There, bingo.
So they cleared this lot, and put a parking lot there. Planning and zoning enforcement put it on hold. There still isn't a clear outcome. So that, I think it's maybe being discussed in April. So I don't know if the work is associated with that.
It's just getting closer, that's all. I mean, again.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know, was there ever discussion on flagging the wetlands and wetland plants?
No, because when I went out there, he said that he said this is what his parking lot was going to be. We discussed it at the meeting and said, nope, more than 200 feet. So there was no need to it. But if we've heard from Leah that there's an appearance that he is now continuing to move north beyond what he described to me last summer. If that's the case, then we would need to have him do some.
Well, we could be proactive and send them a letter saying.
Yeah,
One of the members has a concern. Could you please explain and come in with a
yep.
site
Excuse me,
plan?
Mr. Chairman,
One,
I like Mike's idea about sending a letter, but my question is will he be able to use, because he's a tree farm and considered agricultural, that he doesn't have to follow the wetlands guidelines because he's
Well,
agricultural?
Let's give him the opportunity to tell us that.
Yeah, and if he's a tree farm, he's supposed to be doing a forest management plan,
Right.
which isn't clear cutting for parking.
So I think the letter will open the door.
No, like I said, Mike, I think that's a great idea. At least
Thank
it
you, Bob.
opens up a line of communication.
Yep. Let them know that there's some concerns here.
And so for that letter, then I have a notice of possible violation letter, which I've sent, that's what I sent to Bellingham Street. Do you want similar to that or something less?
I would
Something
go with
less.
less.
Okay.
Just,
And we can use that if he blows us off, if he blows us off, then, after
crank it up.
repeated attempts to.
You start at one.
the letter I
Get
sent
that
you
done.
this afternoon gave the historical context from last summer. You can say, since then you've taken over as agent and you would be the person who would go out and talk to him and he would show you on the site. And you'd be able to discuss that with him.
Yeah, you might be able to save him a couple $100, not have to do an RDA. It's a friendly walk, saying, no.
So we'll see about what I would
That's if
ask.
we can tear her away from the highway department.
Well, this is my priority setting.
I'll just walk down, I'll walk through my old neighborhood and get there.
If you drive by there and see that there's a, someone's hauling trees or trees are falling over while you're driving by, that's going to bump it up on Isabella's priority list. Otherwise it can, and wait until she gets some of the other.
Well, right now you can't put the worms back in the can. It brings it down, like, it is what it is, you know?
And Mr. Chairman, I have I go out Route 16, come home Route 16. So I'm heading west and then back east, and I keep going by Lake Nipmunk. And I see some activity, a lot of activity at the lake where they're building a big stone wall and they push the road and what,
Benny Pinto up there?
yeah, do we have an activity report or anything or an update on
That would be
what's
too
going
good.
on there?
Do Nipmuc. Yeah,
Dave,
I
think.
haven't gone on site yet. I can do that this 2 weeks if I can push that up. They are following plan from what I can see from the road.
Okay.
That stone wall is permitted and the riprap along the driveway where the entrance is. So from what I can see on the road, it is up to date with, or on par with the notice of intent. And I know they have silt fence down below as well. But I haven't had my feet on the ground there yet.
Is that one of the projects that should be providing SWIPs?
No, it's a single family house.
Just while we're on the topic, because I haven't investigated too much, but further west on Route 16, there's that clearing area and it's like Constant has a machine on it. And they must have brought in materials and there's a steep slope going back there. And I know there's a wetland in the back, but
You're talking.
before the seafood place.
Across from the Hideaway Pizza place.
Yes.
Yeah, I also was questioning that because the excavator was on the slope by those trees the other day. So I don't know if that's.
Processing, you bring stuff in and you process it and you're creating a site pad for the future, I guess.
Well, that's all filled. Remember, there used to be a big ledge outcrop in there and
Yeah, so
hammered and leveled off. It looks pretty nice.
the problem is in the back, it's a steep slope and I think there's a road within there's a wetland. So from the bottom of that slope, it's not more than 50 feet to the wetland, so.
I don't know who owns or who's working there. I don't know.
Can I have a property address for the minutes?
Across the street from the Hideaway Pizza.
Can you bring up?
No, it's like, whatever. It's something.
Get yourself a chicken basket. And watch the last game.
I don't know. These are like off. I think it's gonna be 112 or 7.
It's not shown.
Well, okay.
And was the seafood place, were they gonna replace their septic system? Did that get pushed off or they've already got, did they get
Not
their?
aware of that.
I think it was a D box, if I'm not mistaken, or for a grease trap or something.
I forget, well, they were gonna cut some trees and so they wanted to.
They wanted to do it over the winter.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna replace their septic system.
Yeah, that's what I have seen as well.
Guess it didn't happen though, huh?
Well, they knew, they wanted to get the application so they could do it in the next 3 years during their off season.
There you go, okay.
It might have a order of conditions. I don't know if work has started.
They would be doing work until next November, or next September when they close.
So they didn't do work over the winter.
I haven't seen, I've
Doesn't look
seen
like
any
it.
activity there. I've been going that route for the last few years.
Does that do it for us, Mr. Chair? Or you just wanted an address for this on Duxbury?
I like, well, if we're gonna ask Isabella to go and look at something, I want to have an address.
Well, it's either, I don't know, I just stopped sharing it again.
Across the street from the Hideaway Pizza.
Yeah, I know where it is. The number
Right.
is
If we put
net
that in
zero
minutes,
because it's
then give
that
it time
one
to
It's
get an
one,
address.
Okay, well, if you.
has two different addresses. It's 116 and 7, so I'm gonna have to look at it more.
Okay, well,
There's no mailbox out.
if you can get that,
There's also,
But the access might be off of that Nipmuc, so it might be 7.
Around the back, yeah.
okay.
yeah,
so-
it looks like it's 7 off of Nipmuc Drive. There's some sort of road in the middle. Is that the road you're talking about? So I don't know.
So is this something Isabella should go and talk to them in the next 2 weeks, or will it wait?
It'll wait.
Oh, no, I was just, like I said, I've just
Okay.
put it on the radar and again, like I said, these are things, she's got to try to fit it in.
Okay.
She's being
So the,
loaded up with work from other places.
I think it is maybe helpful now that I've gone through some of the older permits and start going on open permits and seeing the activity around town, are there higher priority open permits that I should schedule walks with now that we're getting back into construction season?
She's getting acclimated to the job, to our records, to the town.
Yep, cleaning up our act.
are the sorry state of our records. All right, any other items? Great, we're now ready for
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Opposed?
Bye-bye.
Aye.
Motion passes. See you in 2 weeks.
Ciao for now.
Night, everyone.
Night.